taking on the two biggest superpowers of the world isn't easy, but Orb was determined to make it work. With superior technology, great tactics, a little bit of luck, and maybe some underhanded dealings, they managed to make the impossible possible in their fight against both the Earth Alliance and Zaft. But they didn't do it alone. Attracted by their ideal of neutrality, Orb managed to gather some powerful allies themselves, putting them in a surprisingly good position for the final battles of the First Bloody Valentine War. So first, let's have a look at the machines that the so-called Three Ships Alliance had at their disposal, and how one of their commanders intended to deploy them. The first ship was Orb's own Kusanagi, an Izumo-class battleship belonging to the powerful Alpha family. As such, it was under the direct command of Kagaliula Alpha, who was the daughter of Uzuminara Alpha, the late chief representative of Orb, but the captain of the ship itself would be Letanier Kisaka. And this vessel was incredibly powerful in just about every regard. In terms of weapons, it came packing with 2 Godfrey beam cannons, 4 Lohengrin positron blaster cannons, 12 missile launchers, and an unknown amount of Eaglestellung 75mm Seawiz guns, easily rivaling both the Alliance and Zaft's most powerful offerings at the time of its inception. And on top of that, it was also designed from the ground up to handle mobile suits, with a hangar that could carry at least 10 of them, with the lineup consisting of the Strike Rouge and an unknown amount of M1 Strays and M1A Strays. The Strike Rouge was a slightly upgraded version of the original Strike and was piloted by Kagaliula Alpha herself. The M1 Stray then was Orb's main mobile suit, and in terms of power fell somewhere in between the Alliance's Dagger and Zaft's Guaze, with their most famous pilots being Asagi Caldwell, Myra Labat, and Juri Wu Nian. And finally, the M1A Stray was an upgraded space-only version of the standard M1, with its most famous pilot being the martial artist Barry Ho. The only downside of the Kusanagi was that it only had 1 catapult to launch all of those mobile suits, which wasn't a flaw that was present in the second ship of the Three Ships Alliance, the Archangel, the first ship and namesake of the mighty Archangel class. When the Alliance first began work on their own mobile suits, they of course also wanted a ship to carry them. And for this, they looked to Orb's Izumo class as a blueprint. The Archangel was the Alliance's most powerful ship at the time, and would quickly make a name for itself as one of the most powerful ships ever. In terms of weapons, it featured more variety than the Izumo class, with 2 Godfrey beam cannons, 2 Lohengrin positron blaster cannons, 2 Valiant linear guns, 16 surface-to-air missile launchers, 24 surface-to-ship missile launchers, and 16 Eaglestellung Seawiz guns. And in terms of mobile suits, we also see an improvement. While we don't know how many mobile suits the Archangel could exactly handle, it did feature 2 catapults. And one of its most defining features was that it had specialized equipment to handle the striker packs for the Strike Gundam. But for all of its mobile suit handling capabilities, the Archangel was only left with 2 of them. The Strike Gundam, piloted by Alliance ace pilot Mula Flaga, and the Buster Gundam, piloted by Zaft Redcoat Diarca Elsman. And the captain of the ship itself was Maru Romius, who was also the one to take the decision to join Orb, after they'd been betrayed by the Earth Alliance. And finally, we have the Eternal, both the strongest and the weakest ship of the Three Ships Alliance. By itself, it only had an underwhelming main cannon, multiple small beam cannons, some missile launchers, and some Seawiz guns. But that's because the Eternal wasn't built for raw firepower. Instead, it was purpose-built as a support ship for 2 of the most powerful mobile suits of the war, the nuclear-powered Freedom and Justice Gundam. And to give these already incredibly powerful mobile suits even more power, it also carried 2 Meteor weapon systems on the bow. When equipped to the Eternal, they were simply gun turrets with 2 main beam cannons, 2 secondary beam cannons, 2 large beam sabers, and a complement of missile launchers. But when equipped to the Freedom and the Justice, it turned them into high-speed assault machines that were capable of taking on an entire fleet by themselves. And the Eternal's other trump card was its speed. It was the fastest ship around, turning it into a great assault vessel. And this ship, as well as the mobile suits that it was meant to support, would become part of the 3 Ships Alliance thanks to the machinations of Lacus Clyne, a popular singer with a somewhat ditzy appearance who is definitely a lot sharper than she leads on. Disagreeing with how radicalized Zaft was becoming, she decided to make her own faction and join forces with the 3 Ships Alliance. She was also the commander of the ship, and some would even say the leader of the entire alliance. But this video isn't about how Lacus is secretly aiming for world domination. The captain of the Eternal is Andrew Waldfeld, and its mobile suit complement consists of only the aforementioned Freedom and Justice, piloted by Kira Yamato and Zaft Redcoat Athron Zala respectively. On to their initial battle plan then, which I believe was conceived by Kigali herself, because I highly doubt that her entourage would have ever even considered this plan. Kigali wasn't afraid of fighting on the front lines herself, as evidenced by her 2 nicknames, the Line of Orb and the Goddess of Victory. So she herself would form the spearhead of the attack, which would have 2 very strong effects. It would be a great morale boost for her own troops, and since she was piloting the very flashy Strike Rouge, it would also direct the enemy's attention to her. This would then allow the meteor-equipped Freedom and Justice Gundams to outflank the enemy and destroy them in a coordinated pincer attack. The big problem with this plan was of course that Kigali would have to survive, and sure, the plan called for her to be supported by the elite M1 AS race, but another part of the plan was that Kigali would use the IWSP Striker Pack for this. She wanted to use this pack because it both looked powerful for intimidation and morale purposes, and because it simply was powerful, which would then arguably allow her to survive long enough for Kira and Athron to wipe out the enemy fleet. And in the meantime, the Strike and the Buster would be guarding the ships, and the Standardist race would be doing something, because for some reason they weren't part of the plan, so they could just hang out wherever they wanted. But as you're probably all very aware, Kigali wasn't able to use the IWSP effectively, and both the Striker Pack and the plan were quickly shelved, and instead she would sortie with the much simpler Aile Striker. Personally though, I don't think this would necessarily have to be the end of the plan. If Kigali insisted on fighting on the front lines, I would group her together with Mu in the other strike, while being closely supported by the M1 AS race. The M1s can stay behind to guard the ship, and the Buster can be deployed depending on the situation. If the mission is more offensive, it can closely support the strikes and the M1As, but if the mission is more defensive, it can support the ships and the M1s. And as an added bonus, in this scenario, he'd also be able to protect the M1 Astray team, because damn it, those 3 need more love, and they would have been awesome in Gundam Seed Destiny with the Murasumes, but alas. And well, that is all that we know for the 3 Ships Alliance's strategy during the First Bloody Valentine War. So let me know down below how you would deploy them if you were their commander. As always, a big thank you to the Patreon supporters. I hope everyone watching has a great day, and I'll see you all next time.